Hey there everyone, it's Snoo here. We got a very exciting video for you today. I was a little bit reluctant to make a video about a build specifically as it is not my forte. Usually I'm doing videos more along the lines of currency earning strategies, as most of you who are subscribed know this. However, I've been having a very good amount of success with this build on a surprisingly low budget, playing the game in a way that is very much akin to the way I was playing it at the end of last season in all its glory. Three mirrors worth of gear, that kind of character. I certainly don't have quite that level of power right now, but for a 3x budget, surprisingly powerful, strong both defensively and offensively, as well as even in terms of like speed and efficiency overall. And I want to show you guys what that is. I kind of go over my builds, what I'm doing on my day one, week one, month one sort of reviews of the league, but it's going surprisingly well, and I definitely want to devote an entire video for this. Now, this will not be a build guide in the fullest sense with its own forum thread and things like that, but this is just going to be a showcasing. I do believe I'm the only one who's ever made a build like this. I just checked the PoE Ninja on this league as well as last league. I even tried to Google a little bit. Every time I pulled up Tornado Shot in combination with Soulthirst, nothing just comes up. Basically nothing comes up. There is nobody who's build like this. And Soulthirst is a very diverse item. You can use it with a wide variety of abilities. If you pick an ability with it, you would want to use one that scales at least a 1-to-1 ratio with attack speed, and of course Tornado Shot is one that scales that well. Tornado Shot is well known as an ability that one of the very most powerful bow abilities in the game in terms of its scalability, so it makes a lot of sense to me that you might consider Tornado Shot as a potential candidate for a Soulthirst build, but I don't know if nobody else has done that yet or not. Please put in the comments down below. I'm really surprised that I was not able to find any other examples of a build quite like this. Soulthirst builds in general are extremely unpopular right now. I think it's 0.1% of the PoE Ninja currently is even using Soulthirst equipped. I'd never used it before, and I want to intro this video by highlighting a content creator named Asmodeus. He is somebody who's basically championed the Soulthirst build. I'm surprised it hasn't taken off, and he's used it with Spark, he's used it with Lightning Strike, he's used it on Trickster Ascendancy apparently recently. Well, he's inspired me through watching his videos the past few seasons. I've been inspired to actually give Soulthirst a real shot for its money in a league start scenario. I equipped the Soulthirst and made the quick transition to it on day 3. It is now day 6. And I'm confident enough to post this video now, and I'm going to show you guys the numbers. I'm going to give an actual showcase in a cemetery map, fully juiced, at least the maximum amount of juice that I'm currently doing right now, which again is akin to what I was doing at the end of the season, last season. First, we'll start off with the passive skills on there. I'll show you the passive tree. I'll let you see the gear. You're going to see it's only about 3x in budget. It's going to be pretty obvious that the gear is just kind of makeshift gear. There's nothing crazy special about it, maybe with the exception of one piece of gear. We'll get into that. The flasks are really important for this build. Now, I do have very good flasks on now, but around day 3 or 4, my flasks were just kind of mediocre, and I will give a mention to what kind of flasks you can use for this build. The POB is obviously going to be linked in the description below. I'll just get this right out of the way right now. According to the POB on the sheet DPS, even when I go in and I calculate or configure in all the sort of extraneous factors that improve the DPS in the sheet, like for example, is the monster chilled, frozen, ignited? Do I have gale wind? Do I have 1,000 rampage stacks? Even when I go in and put all those things in there, it still comes out to less than 1 million DPS, which is not all that impressive on the sheet DPS. But go figure, like a lot of POBs, it's very misleading in the sense that I can't, or at least I didn't go in and mess with Soulthirst configuration because it's quite variable, but you'll see that when you run a juiced map, a predictable map like Cemetery, you definitely actually have a lot of control over how you run that map. It does raise the skill cap a little bit, which I like. Of course, I like seeing a build that requires the player to have a bit more planning than usual. It's definitely nowhere near as brain dead as Headhunter is, where you just go in and just start murdering everything without thinking about it. Yeah, that'll of course all be in the showcase. I'll talk a little bit about the kind of the future of the build, because right now I'm in the middle of transitioning to kind of replacing basically every piece of gear to making every piece of gear be worth like 1 or 2x, just kind of doing that sort of incremental upgrades on there. Now, I haven't done any of those yet. I've been holding off before I make this video to actually following through with that, but I do have a few pieces of gear I might show you so you can get an idea about moving forward there. Of course, I will show you the Atlas strategy. That will be linked down below, the Atlas passives I'm using. I do not have all of them filled out. I have all of them filled out minus the Major Maven invitation, so minus, I think, 5. I think I'm 5 away from capped on that. And of course the mapping strategy, what altars. Am I doing altars? Yes. Am I doing sentinels? Yes. Sextants? Yes. Scarabs? Yes. Again, it's fairly juiced strategy. Not holding anything back, really. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the passive tree first. Okay, so right here you can immediately see this is a Deadeye Ascendancy. Now, I usually run Raider, but Tornado Shot at League Start when your gear is not very good. Deadeye is definitely better because, I mean, just endless munitions alone is super, super strong. Ricochet is really good, allows you to use fork support instead of chain support, which I think definitely is a more powerful 6-link overall. Gathering Winds, obviously, if I can't get the Forbidden Jewels yet at a League Start situation, Gathering Winds is probably the strongest. Yeah, I can say pretty affirmatively it's the strongest Ascendancy between any of the Ascendancies in the game, at least as far as Ranger Ascendancies. And then Focal Points, not too bad. I'd say this is definitely the weakest one overall for mapping, but it's still pretty nice. I'm going to look into potentially taking Windward because I do so much attack speed, so many attacks that this would basically be at 100% at all times. But anyway, I like the idea of having 75% increase. Marks a lot more projectiles coming out of the enemy and that sort of thing. So anyway, we stick with it. This is a sort of bread and butter Tornado Shot Deadeye Ascendancy. This is exactly what most Deadeye Ascendancies for Tornado Shot would run. Now, you'll see my tree looks pretty normal here. I am doing a few extra auras here. We'll get into auras in a little bit. Exactly what skills I'm using. We're going down, straight down here, we got to take the Flasks node. So you're going to see pretty quickly this looks like a Soulthirst build on the Ranger tree. Getting the Flasks nodes here, getting the Flask nodes over here for increased duration. This build is all about increased duration. You do see 2 medium cluster jewels. Okay, this is very cheap. These cluster jewels, they're not special. They don't even have distilled. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's the one that gives 10. It's a notable that gives 10% increase Flask duration on it. I don't even have that on there. It's just 25% with 6 passive skills. This is like a 1 or 2 chaos jewels. I have them both. The build overall is sort of a mesh between my previous season's build, mirror tiered build on the Ranger, Tornado Shot Raider rather, and just kind of trying to plug in the Flask nodes as well. And of course I had to cut some corners on that. I don't even have Timeless Jewel yet. I don't have a Watcher's Eye yet. You know, those items cost quite a bit of currency right now. So again, 3x budget, this is kind of what we're looking at. And again, you can see the POB down below. This wheel is definitely a lot different than the one I had before, relying very heavily on Freeze, Shock, and Ignite. As a general rule, I'm running Herald of Ice, for example, so that's a little different than before. But, you know, got a little bit of point blank, got a little bit of far shot, got not going any of the crit. That was a major corner cut here, is I'm not relying on the crit nodes very much. So there's a lot to be desired there. I am only level 92 currently, so it's kind of hard to level when you're mapping the way I am. Definitely die a little bit. I might die on the map that I showcased. That's okay. Definitely prioritizing run speed, though. I do think run speed is quite important. Let me go through and quickly go over some of the gear here. All right, this is off the Imperial Legacy turn-in of the Divination cards. This was like 20 or 30 chaos right now to get this 6-link Imperial Bow. Slam it with Deafening Essences of Wrath until you get at least something halfway decent. It took me about 10 essences to get this. This is nowhere near really good. I mean, this is just sort of mediocre. I believe it's about 1,000 DPS on the bow in total. It was satisfactory for me at the time because I'm planning to switch out to a different bow in the near future, so not messing with it any further than that. The quiver, I think I paid 20 chaos for this. It's just something, I mean, the fire resist, I get nothing out of it. It's got low tier roll. It does have some decent types of rolls, but a lot of them are very low tier. The important ones here is the high max life roll and the bow fires additional arrows roll. The crit strike multi is nice, but I'm not even really prioritizing crit, so not getting a huge amount out of it. I do go the Gull. The Gull is part of the major strategy here with shrines, and it's definitely going to help boost my efficiency and overall survivability for that matter. I guess I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. Headhunter, this season especially, from what I hear, and in seasons past, Headhunter is primarily functioning as a defensive layer. It is a huge defensive layer, and the offensive layers it's giving is not all that impactful. However, I would say it probably is still pretty impactful with the Fizz to element conversion builds, because still a lot of modifiers are giving a lot of Fizz to element conversion builds, which I'm excited to try. I do want to try the Headhunter at some point, but this one's all about Soulthirst at a cheap budget in a league start situation. So moving on, this is sort of my thing here. Most people don't run this combination. I like Worm Sign with Darossel's Defiance. It's got a unique interaction here with endurance charges and rampage. And as well as the links in here in particular, using Immortal Call. So it's a combination of Darossel's Defiance, Immortal Call, and then Worm Sign's Rampage. And you can take a look deeper into that if you want. I'm not going to go into detail about it. You'll notice the chest is only a 5 link though, so I've not paid for a single 6 link outside of, you know, a Fortunate Divination card that exists. So that's in there. We got the Soulthirst belt as well. Soulthirst is so unbelievably unpopular that I was able to get this Corrupted Implicit for like 20 chaos. So this is in preparation for Omniscience. So eventually I'll get an Omniscience amulet. One of the questions I expect to be asked down below probably is, what are you going to get first, a Headhunter or Omniscience? If you'd asked me that question a week ago, I would have said Headhunter. Assuming that I knew what the price of Omniscience would end up being. But now, actually, I think I am going to farm Omniscience first because I want to try Omniscience with the Soulthirst belt. I think it would be interesting to see what it can pull off. That's how strongly I feel about this Soulthirst build, how well it's turned out, that I'm willing to put Headhunter on the shelf for a little bit to kind of play this out and get a real good feel for it. Now, this, of course, comes in compounded by the fact that Headhunter has been indirectly nerfed by virtue of changing over to Arch Nemesis modifiers, and then indirectly nerfed again and again by them nerfing the Arch Nemesis modifiers repeatedly. So I think the GGG has actually said they're going to do something about that to a certain extent. We'll see in the future. I'm not sure. I got a ring here. This ring basically does nothing except give me a little bit of chaos reds. It gives me minus mana cost. It gives me a life roll, and it gives me some strength because I have to have strength somewhere in order to level Immortal Call, as well as maybe a couple other things. Yeah, here's an interesting choice here. So before I made this build, I was scrolling through all the unique rings to see what kind of league start ring potentials I had. I came across this little thing right here. I wasn't really aware of it. Apparently this was a really strong, popular ring, had an interesting interaction years gone past. Now everyone's forgotten about it, but if you actually look at this in the context of a tornado shot build that relies highly on elemental damage, I mean, this thing is pretty dang strong. I mean, this is 3 strong all elemental, or at least 2. No, I mean, that's basically 3 all elemental res rolls tied into one ring, and then it's something like 130% increased damage in total, as well as chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. Of course, it's got no mana roll on it, minus mana for abilities roll. It's got no life roll on it. Doesn't have any influence rolls on it or anything like that. So it does have some downsides, but I definitely like it, and you know, I'll replace it somewhat eventually, but it was a super good choice for the low budget ring. I think it was a very good choice because all you have to do is get a Barracks Pass, Respite, and Grip, and sell them to a vendor, and you get this ring. The most interesting item, and I alluded to this item earlier, I said there is one item that I have is kind of unique. Now this is, in my opinion, kind of an ingenious choice here. This is not something I planned for at League Start, but eventually I realized that if I can't get my hand on Ashes of the Stars as a sort of intermediary, or Omniscience for that matter, what amulet am I even going to use? Because Tornado Shot doesn't really scale with plus skills, and I don't need like defensive stats on my amulet. So this amulet, as you can see, is highly oriented toward improving your overall clearing efficiency. It's increased movement speed, projectile damage. Projectile speed is projectile damage. It does give me a strength roll. And this amulet is one of the dirtiest, cheapest amulets in the entire game. So dirt cheap that even with the additional curse roll on it, it's still only like 5 to 20 chaos. So this is unbelievably cheap for how good this is. Now, you look at this amulet by itself, and you just think about how valuable this is. You scratch your head a little bit on it and realize, oh my God, you know, getting an additional curse basically on and then all these other stats on here is actually exceptionally strong. And then being able to anoint it. Now, I was going to anoint my amulet with Whispers of Doom, which is unfortunately a triple gold anoint to give me the extra curse. But this is a much smarter way about it, because then I can go ahead and anoint it for higher aura efficiency and aura effect via sovereignty, and it just ties together really well, and it's extremely good choice. Probably my proudest decision on the entire build is getting this, and there's at least 5 of these floating around right now. Now, these do not have an endless supply. If people suddenly were desiring a Karui ward with additional curse, then the supply would be gone immediately. But for the time being, it's a really good choice, and you don't have to have an extra curse. But here's the issue with this build, is that you're using Sniper's Mark, obviously, because you have tornado shots. You're using Sniper's Mark, and that is a 2-link here on the on-hit support. It's a big part. It increased effective marks and the ascendancy notable. Very important there. So you cannot use a curse. Now, normally this doesn't really matter, because the curse you would use, if you could use one, is Elemental Weakness. Why? But you don't really care that much about it, because you're using Omniscience, right? So you're already reducing the enemy's resistances down like some crazy amount anyway, that it is diluted. The value of Elemental Weakness curse is diluted heavily by the fact that you're using Omniscience. But guess what? We don't have Omniscience because it's unavailable to the average person at the current price of 40 to 50 exalts right now. So you really want to have that extra curse on there if you can. If you guys were not aware, first of all, another great reason to go these gloves, or unique gloves, as opposed to some sort of like Eldritch implicit gloves, is the fact that you can get this curse on. Now, of course, you could get it as a Hunter Influence ring instead, so that wouldn't be a bad decision. But you absolutely do want the extra curse. Somehow, some way, some form, either through Whispers of Doom anointment, but of course that's very expensive, or getting the implicit on an amulet like this. And then you want Elemental Weakness on hit. Yeah, you need it on hit, not like cast when damage taken support or anything. Elemental Weakness rank 1 is minus 20. So with a 48% increase effect, that's 29. Monsters take 29% increased elemental damage. When I was running Omniscience last season, now I was not really stacking my my stats. I only had 100. I think 103. So this curse is giving me effectively about a third of the power that Omniscience gave me last season. That's actually enormous when you think about just how big that is. Now, again, for somebody who was stacking Omniscience stats and stuff, maybe it's only about a fifth or a sixth of the power, but it's still a huge amount of power, considering we don't really get hardly any other sources of minus or extra damage taken from monsters, extra elemental damage taken. It's super strong, and in my opinion, basically mandatory. I remember making the switch over to this, and then my clearing efficiency went up a lot. So I would not really suggest trying to run without this combination in somehow. I mean, you could, but definitely huge quality of life, or huge damage increase, rather. So that's it with the gear, I think. Basically, let's go over the links real quick. So greater multiple projectile support is a little bit of a questionable choice, because it does hurt your damage, gives you extra projectiles. You have to have a certain number of projectiles by default in order for this to not be the best choice. And right now, I have 8 projectiles with it, so I have 4 projectiles without it. I think that's kind of right on the line. So if I have 5 or 6 projectiles without it, I might run a different item. But with 4, I do think, and when I test this in the POB, you can actually plug it in the POB and get a pretty accurate representation. It comes out about even to the second best choice. So anyway, increased multiple projectile supports there. Inspiration support for the minus mana cost. This is naturally one. Trinity support, because of course you're going to run those two. Fork support for the Deadeyes. I suggest chain support if you're doing this with a Raider, however. Elemental damage with attack support. I mean, this is kind of in in preparations for awakened elemental damage with attack support, where I can run or can be immune to elemental reflect, at least in theory. And then tornado shot. This is the only alternate quality gem I have right now. Currently, it's not making a huge difference currently at this time, as I'm not doing a fizz to elemental conversion build or taking advantage of that in any way, shape, or form yet. So I went ahead and got this as preparation for it, but you don't have to use anomalous quality there. Let's see, we got determination and grace. Let's actually look, I'm down here. We're just kind of looking down here. So my auras here are grace, determination, defiance banner. Okay, that's the holy trinity of defensive layers. If you're going to juice stuff up, and especially in league start situation, you really kind of want all three of those, even on soft core, if you want to be able to survive easily. Then I'm running Herald of Ice. Now this is what I leveled with, and this is actually incredibly strong, surprisingly good AoE damage. I didn't expect it to scale all that well, but it really does. I do see the power of it in maps, and it was extremely good while leveling. The biggest surprise in terms of like overall leveling efficiency and clear, just in the campaign, as well as early maps. Herald of Ice, I really like it, but I am looking forward to replacing it with Hatred as soon as I finally get to the fizzed element conversion portion of this build. Of course, I will need some extra aura reservation to do that, for which case, you know, I don't even have an Enlighten yet, because again, 3x budget. All right, precision is there, and this is what level precision is it? Right here. Okay, level 17. That's just enough to get me capped, basically. Okay, right, let's see, we got this 4-link here is sort of a snoo special, you could call it. I like this one. Again, it's all about the way the Darius's Defiance banner works, or sorry, Defiance banner, Darius's Defiance endurance charge, 100% chance for endurance charge on kill, but you lose endurance charges when you get hit. You lose endurance charges when you use Immortal Call. While you're mapping, usually when your Immortal Call goes off via left click, like I have here, you will have maximum endurance charges because you're just killing stuff so fast. You're killing stuff faster than you're getting hit, or more frequently than you're getting hit. You're definitely killing, on average, more than 3 monsters per time getting hit. That's what I mean to say. Portal, you know, not necessary there. My 5-link in here is a ballista, focus ballista setup. So it's basically just standard focus ballista setup. If I had a 6-link, I would obviously have a damage gem in there, but you know, 3x budget is what it is. I think that's it for the links, right? Frostblink is in here somewhere. Where is that? Frostblink. Oh, okay, here it is. Yeah, Frostblink. So out of the 3 skills, I don't like Dash very much because it actually slows you down when you finish the cast. Frostblink has a terrific cooldown recovery rate because I'm doing juiced maps and stuff. So I went ahead and used this. Now, before when I was running a raider, I ran with elusive step, withering step rather, but without phasing. See, I don't have phasing on, so that's another corner I've cut. I actually don't have any sources of phasing, and it's kind of becoming a little bit of a problem. I may turn around and figure out a way to get phasing into my build, but I'm so used to having it automatically on a raider, it's really made me appreciate that ascendancy node that gives a 40% spell suppression with phasing, permanent phasing, really powerful. In a situation where phasing is just annoying to get, my pathing here doesn't really allow me to get phasing easily. I could actually spend a couple points to get it here if I want, but I really don't want to spend those points because I'm kind of point starved on some other things. I'll think about it. I may switch some things out. We'll see. Okay, so that is all on the gear. Let's talk about the flasks here. Now, currently my flasks are very good. I have double tier 1 on all 5 flasks. And your flasks are really important. It's definitely one thing you want to have upgraded to its fullest capacity if you can. This is a Soulthirst build. You want as much duration as you can possibly get. By the way, my longest lasting flasks, this flask here, lasts for 48 seconds. Now the way Soulthirst works, if you weren't aware, Soulthirst works so that when you trigger the first flask, it initiates the sort of hidden Soulthirst buff. And that buff will be on your character until that first flask you hit expires, which means you want to use the longest duration flask first, which is going to be the Bismuth flask here at 22.5 seconds. There is no other faster flask than that. One thing I was not aware of is that it's okay for the other flasks to have a shorter duration. Your Soulthirst stackable buffs do not disappear whenever any flask runs out. They disappear when your initial flask runs out, the longest lasting one, the one that initiated the buff. Now, the buffs do disappear anytime you use a flask. So if I hit this flask and then I use another flask later on, that will reset the buffs. But if I use basically all 5 flasks at once, starting with the Bismuth, and then the other ones expire first. You see the Quicksilver flasks going to expire much earlier than the others. That's fine. It expires and I still have the buff, so long as I don't keep reusing them. So what does it look like? It looks like I need to cast this one and then the other 4, something like that. Okay, so that's exactly what it would look like. Okay, again, okay, just like that. Okay. And yeah, you can see that it's lasting a pretty dang long time. Because I have a lot of flask duration. I got as many nodes as I could get. On the passive tree, I got only a couple medium clusters. Obviously, you could have 2 large clusters and 4 medium clusters if you could afford it. You had the point allocations for it. It would be you'd have to make a lot of sacrifices on your passive tree to do that. And it would cost more currency. But again, this is just sort of the beginning steps of this build. It's certainly worthy enough, and it passes the bar. Passes the bar well enough for me to make a video about it. I think I mentioned already that the POB, if you look at the POB, it's going to say I do less than 1 million DPS. Obviously, in a practical sense, with Soulthirst running, I'm doing way, way, way more than 1 million DPS, as I basically trivialize the content for the most part. Alright, and then future transitions. So I already have a few pieces of gear. I'm thinking about doing a Fizz to element conversion with a Lion Eye as a primary bow, potentially. Damage is a little low, but it's got some really interesting mods in here. Like, I could actually drop all sources of accuracy rating if I took this bow, and also get far shot, which is a lot of extra damage while mapping. It's incredibly fast default, so that would be a terrific synergy with Soulthirst as well. And yeah, I'm thinking about trying that out actually. Here, I did recently buy a new quiver. This was a 2x quiver. I'm not going to equip it in this showcase because again, I'm showcasing a 3x variation of this build. But this is a really, really nice quiver. I was lucky to get it for 2x, just like minutes before I started this video. I am going to actually switch from the 2 separate medium clusters to 1 large cluster with 2 mediums, and I'll drop out the other cluster entirely. Yeah, probably. I might try to put another medium cluster in that bottom one, maybe. I do have a Omniscience ring, sort of Omniscience ready, high chaos res ring, sitting in my back pocket here. I got unfortunate with the Redeemer Orb Slam. I was hoping for a little better option. There are some really, really good options that can come with that Prefect Slam. But anyway, this isn't terrible. It's not the worst option. This is a superb ring in its own right. I bought the base with the triple tier 1 suffixes, and then of course I meta modded it one time. Very easy to do that, to get the life roll off of the veiled modifier, and then craft the mana, and then slam the Redeemer Orb in there. Pretty good. Honestly, this is a decent profit-making kind of ring setup. If you find something like that with suffixes that good, yeah, you can set up something to, and this ring is probably worth at least like 10x to some buyer who has plenty of currency, who needs chaos res and stats, and is mana oriented player, which is a lot of players every season. So yeah, these items here are on standby. They are all sort of direct upgrades to what I have currently. I'm not going to equip them for this showcase though. Okay, Atlas strategy, here we go. Let's get into this here. So for showcasing this one here, this is going to look somewhat reminiscent to what I ended up last time. You see that Legion is the primary farm. I'm going pretty deep into Legion. I am taking Protracted Battle because I cannot quite do the Legion quickly enough, reliably enough, if I don't have an Acceleration Shrine. If I have a full-blown Acceleration Shrine, I can. This is really cool. When I roll a map that's extra hard, like if I roll it with Beyond, or if I roll like 8 mod Corrupted with minus all res or something, I'll throw in a Nico mission, and I will get these buffs in the map automatically. in the beginning. Ingenious, you know, for only two passive points, or you could sacrifice a scarab and just run a scarab every single time and get these buffs. Really, actually, surprisingly good choice to do. I'm even thinking about doing it right now. Like, I could just I might drop the breach scarab, to be completely honest with you guys. I'm really thinking about dropping the breach scarab and just putting in a sulfite scarab for these buffs, because it would make things so much easier going. By the way, this packed with energy buff, it lasts forever. Persists through death is what I mean to say. It persists through death. So even when you die and come back in the map, you still have +3 max all res, 105% increased damage, and 45% increased movement speed the second you re-enter the map. That's pretty crazy and really good for this season when it's extremely rippy and, you know, it's sort of let's use all 6 portals kind of season. Overall, I'm blocking everything except Delirium Mirrors, Legion, Breach, and Heist, because, you know, Heist is just a lot of currency from Deception contracts and blueprints. Shrines is, of course, you know, huge player here. Strongbox is actually even stronger this season than it's ever been before, because Scarabs are a little harder to come by, and I forgot there was one other reason why they're also really good. I forgot the reason. But the main reason, I think, is because Scarabs became more valuable this season. I feel, anyway. I'm also going with this one. This is a recent edition here, Dance with Destruction. Now, I was taking this one. This was like full-blown Giga Juice, crazy in the head kind of stuff. But it was too rippy. I had to duck that. But I can handle just a permanent 25% more damage taken. And I would rather just be able to kill faster, and I usually still don't die in a regular map, especially if it's not 8-mod corrupted. I am still going ahead and taking all of the increased effect modifiers, and I'm filling out the quantity wheel as I progress through. I am currently missing 6 Atlas passive points. All the Maven invitations. I just don't want to mess with it right now. I'd rather farm currency. There's nothing else major I can put the points in anyway. It'd just be finishing this quantity wheel, I think. Okay, that's all for that. If you have any questions on all of that, you can ask in the comments below. Everything time-stamped. Okay, we're going to talk about mapping strategy. Woo, all right. So, got some compasses here. We got Enraged, Gloom Shrine, Strongbox, and there should be Legion here somewhere. Uh-oh. I think I'm missing Legion. Alright. Apparently I forgot to put in the Legion. So this map, this particular showcasing will actually be short a Legion, because apparently I forgot to buy the other one. So usually my 4th Sextant is a Legion. So unlike a lot of strategies out there, I'm talking a little bit about currency earning strategies, I am one of the only people who's actually doing an actual juicing strategy. A lot of people are just farming altars only, or they're farming sentinels only, or altars and sentinels, or maybe just killing the map boss really quickly. That seems to be the prevailing strategy right now. I'm doing my bread and butter. I know it's good. Brother Stash is good, and I'm definitely planning to see those, unless by some chance they nerfed the hell out of the drop rate, which I'm hoping is not the case. I have been using polished scarabs all day long. Could maybe think about going higher, but for now, polished for me. Alright. Oh, I remember. Strongbox is also especially good because Divine Orbs are harder to come by this season. They're going to be a lot more expensive this season because Beyond is not on the Atlas. Carrick Benchcraft. So we have to use... We have to use... well, we have to settle for fewer 6-links found in maps, and strongboxes are still a consistent way to get it. Here's the map I'm going to run. I got Player's Curse with Elemental Weakness. You're going to see that's not going to matter very much here. I'll show you how much that doesn't matter. When I have all my flasks up, when I don't have any flasks up, oh my god, I'm in the red. That looks terrible, right? Now watch this. Oh! Even with Elemental Weakness Curse, would be fine. Especially with Reduced Curse Effect. So that's not going to be a problem at all. And again, a lot higher skill cap involved. I do have to pay attention to the status of my flasks and understand that I'm going to slowly power creep all the way up and then suddenly just drop down real hard and have like very little power, and then kind of have to figure out how to build it back up without dying. Can be a little bit challenging. Let's see here. We got increased monster damage. So I got 25% more monster damage, 23% increased monster damage. That's not fun. I got Fizz Reflect. I think Fizz Reflect is fine. I don't do hardly any physical damage. I believe I get more leech from... I get more leech than I take on damage. Fizz is extra fire. We got monsters chained 2 additional times. Power charge on hit. I have less armor. So it looks like this map is alright. Not too dangerous. A little bit dangerous maybe for like projectile, physical damage projectiles. Okay, let's do this. Here's the grand showcase. Gonna use domination. I bet you didn't see that coming. Oh my god, it's so crazy. 4 additional shrines. 4! It was only 3 last season. Now it's 4. We're gonna do Eater of Worlds. Because I am doing Eater of Worlds altars. And here we go. I'm going to start. Oh yeah, I am running Sentinel here, just Stalker and Pandemonium. I have set this up exactly the way Grimro has this set up. I haven't given this a whole lot of thought. I decided I just kind of set it up. But anyway, we go into the map. I got to use the Flasks soon, but I also want to trigger the Sentinels. I already used the Pandemonium Sentinel. The Stalker Sentinel's out now. Everything that I'm facing is very hard to kill, unfortunately. Now here you see what's going on with no phasing, right? But you see me getting in melee range of monsters without too much trouble. Not like I'm dying or anything crazy. Now you see the stacks up above. I got 200 already, 200 stacks. I am running a Gloom Shrine though, so right now I want to pick up all the shrines. Actually, on second thought, since the boss room is here, I would like higher quality altars, so we're going to see what happens to this boss. Isn't that a familiar sight? You saw how fast I killed that boss right there. That was with 250 some odd stacks. You can see my flask is getting near done. The Quicksilver flask is already done, but I still have all the stacks, right? So it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and use the flasks again. Now my stacks have been removed. I'm going to use this altar. I am doing less attack speed now, but it's still okay. It's going to ramp up very, very quickly. Now, unfortunately, I haven't picked up that Gloom Shrine yet. I don't really want to do the League mechanics until I get the Gloom Shrine. There it is, finally, of course, the last one. I don't even read the altars, okay? It's just like, it's akin to what I was playing before. I don't even have to read the altars. One of the great things about Tornado Shots is it is a very diverse build in respect to its damage. I have a lot of evasion, I have a lot of armor. I can handle basically any sort of niche cancellation effects that modifiers, bad modifiers might throw it my way. Not too bad. So, you know, if the monsters become virtually immune to physical damage, no big deal. If they become virtually immune to lightning damage, no big deal. I still do cold and fire. If a monster makes it, if the monsters always hit me and I have like no evasion, still okay, and I still have a lot of armor. So again, it's not even that big of a deal. So I have the Gloom Shrine on right now. I got again quite a few stacks. Oh yeah, I guess. Well, the representation on this video is a little bit misleading. Actually, I had an invulnerability shrine the whole time. That's another great reason to run shrines. You just get straight up invulnerability shrines half the time. It is a rare shrine spawn. I think it has a spawn rate of about 5% maybe. But you do get secondary shrine effects every time. So I get something like 11. I think I get, yeah, I get 11 random shrine effects per map. Think about how crazy that is. Oh, there's another invulnerability shrine. Well, I'm sorry guys, I guess I'm not really showcasing the defensive capabilities of this build. But you saw at the very beginning of the build, I was definitely taking some damage, you know, I was vulnerable. That is the time you're most vulnerable in this build, at the very beginning. I mean, look at this, I'm still moving really fast, I'm still crushing everything, like, absolutely ridiculous. I'm only starting to ramp up things. There is one downside to the Soulthirst thing, is that the range on it is kind of short. It's only like 50 units or something, so when I kill things half a screen away, they don't actually give me a buff. So that's why things like Lightning Strike can be a little bit more favorable for this build, perhaps, because... Oh, there we go. We see my Bismuth Flask is almost done, so I gotta use it. I gotta be weak again. Oh. I'm playing as if I would be taking damage. I don't even have to dodge stuff, actually. Brutal Shrine makes things pretty funny as they just like just minigun knockback basically. But I think everything's dead, so there's not really anything else to showcase, is there? Yeah, I usually have 2 legions per map, so that's out of the question here. But oh well. I don't even know what happened to the legions. I guess they're all dead. I was talking the whole time, not really focusing on the map, but I mean, you can see how fairly easy going that was. I probably still would not have died on that map, even if I didn't have an invulnerability shrine. So long as it's a big test. I pay close attention to what happens to my health in the initial pull of the map when I don't have like any buffs at all, and I hit everything with the sentinels. It's easily the most dangerous point in the map. Of course, I don't care that much if I die in that point because I haven't picked up any shrines yet, which means it's not a huge loss. So the major bad thing that can happen is if I go around and I pick up almost all the shrines and then die, like before I really do any damage, especially if I pick up the Gloon Shrine and then die before I even do the Legion or do the Breach. That is kind of bad mojo, but that usually doesn't happen because I'm picking up all the shrines at once. It's giving me huge power spikes. I'm getting extra defense, I'm getting extra speed, extra damage, straight up invulnerability, potentially. More items through Covetous Shrine. So
greetings.
I don't want to make this video about shrines. I've made plenty of videos about shrines. But there, you see an entire loot full of stuff. This was actually a pretty bad run as far as the RNG on loot. But this is the kind of stuff I would expect on a consistent basis. A bunch of scarabs, a bunch of splinters. You know, I did not get a Mariketh Legion, unfortunately. A few flasks, whatever. I get Exalted Orbs sometimes. I haven't gotten a Brother Stash yet, but it will come. I've seen all kinds of different things in this run. So, but anyway, I mean, you guys can basically get the picture. Just kind of taking the playstyle that I had at the end of last season and applying it in one of the cheapest ways I could possibly do. And again, trying this Soulthirst strategy, this Soulthirst build, I have no regrets whatsoever. I mean, I have the complete opposite of regrets. I'm feeling so good about it that I decided to go ahead and do a full-blown showcase video on it. And so I hope you guys can get something out of it. Of course, whenever you're advertising a strategy that is extremely unpopular currently, or basically non-existent explicitly when it comes to Tornado Shot in combination with Soulthirst. But again, you don't have to use Tornado Shot. You can use like Lightning Strike or whatever. Any kind of attack speed scaling build in the game, really. But again, if I showcase something and it suddenly becomes popular, you know what that can do to the price or market. But trust me when I say this was only about 3x of an investment with what you currently see here. And now I'm about to scale up my gear. So I'm no longer going to be farming with 3x investment. I can farm multiple x an hour now doing this strategy right here. As safe as it is, I can even successfully level within reason. And obviously, sometimes I face a map that takes me back like half a level, so it's a little bit challenging. I'm not too concentrated on leveling currently, but I want you guys to give this a try if you're confident enough. Of course I will answer any questions you have down below. The POB will be there, the Atlas passives, the usual stuff. I've been pretty good about responding on my videos, so yeah, share this video if you want. Ask me the questions, give it a try, let me know how it goes. And yeah, I think next video I make will be kind of my week 1 experience, because that'll be in a couple days. You'll get to see how this build is kind of progressing in the next video, because I will of course talk about my build in the next video as the week 1 review takes place. I don't know if you think the Arch Nemesis monsters or modifiers are extremely hard, but one massive counter to it is 11 shrine effects with the Gull Shrine and Flask. By the way, another great thing, I'm glad I didn't forget this. Another really, really good thing about Flasks is that there is no Arch Nemesis modifier that nullifies Flask effects. Now, there used to be a modifier called Nullifier that actually canceled out any Flask effects you have. There is Droughtbringer, which kills your Flask charges, but who cares? Your Flasks last almost a minute, and if you run out of charges, just, you know, whatever, just like find a safe spot later on when your flasks are running out, or port out and then back in and get your flask charges back. Not even a big deal. So the great thing about flasks is that they cannot be canceled out or nullified in any way. I'm not aware of a single game mechanic that actually affects what flasks do. Perfect case in point, maps can roll with cannot regenerate mana or life, or reduced effect of life recovery. You can still use life flasks and mana flasks, and you get full effect from them. So we get full effect from the flasks, and you know, even the Quicksilver flask is pretty cool to be able to use with a whole bunch of increased flask effect and flask duration. Being able to use a Quicksilver flask and run how fast? I mean, this is like 40 seconds of 144% movement speed. That's bloody awesome, if you ask me. This is actually faster than my Raider ran by default without a Quicksilver Flask. But anyway, that's it for the video. I've been talking long enough, so I want to let you guys get back in game, and I want to get back in game. So, see you guys in the next video. Bye.